Yeah, and Andrew Ohlschwager, no slouch of an opponent either. He's from Fort Collins, Colorado. Actually top-aided the Grand Prix in Denver. That was a Legacy Grand Prix, which he top-aided, actually top-4'd, I believe, with Maverick. Also made 15th place at GP Vegas. I believe that's the Modern Masters Grand Prix. So, you know, 15th at that Grand Prix is like almost as good as winning a Grand Prix.
AJ committing a champion of the parish to the board. Generally his best opening. Yep, particularly if he has the gather to follow, so we have a little wild Mikado action.
Yeah, 3-3 on...
Gets in there with a very aggressive red zone.
So 3-3 on turn 2. Typically in this Jund matchup, I've heard a lot of players saying that they don't like Champion of the Parish, but I mean, what's not to like when you have a 3-3 on turn 2?
Yeah, I mean, particularly if you're on the play, you know, and besides, when you've got the stone nuts.
Yeah. So Andrew's first play is going to be a turn 2 Scavenging Ooze, but he's already on the back foot here. AJ in his hand has both Tragic Slip and Blood Artist, as well as Lingering Souls, so he has a plethora of options to choose from here. Probably just going to get as aggressive as possible.
Now, does that mean playing the Lingering Souls, or does that mean like smash with everything and trade both a token and a Tragic Slip for the Ooze? Yeah,
and that's a good question. If you get rid of the Lingering Souls, there's a good chance that the Scavenging Ooze will eat it, so you can never flash it back. He's going to go ahead and play Cartel Aristocrat, so because it's a human, it'll pump Champion of the Parish up to a 4-4, put Ohlschwager down to 13. I really like this line because it sets up a good Blood Artist line for next turn.
Yeah, absolutely. Everything's just, you know, working very, very effectively for AJ at this point. AJ has managed to get a sack outlet, a big threat, and multiple tokens in play. He's so many different clicks ahead, it's going to be hard for Andrew to dismantle his combo, and he's going to very quickly reach a critical mass where he can just Blood Artist Andrew out completely.
So he's got to be a little careful. Right now, Andrew has a Tragic Slip available to him this turn, and I expect a creature to die at some point, so that'll probably be enabled this turn. Otherwise, Andrew with a lot of high drops in his hand. He has a Huntmaster of the Fells, a Garruk Primal Hunter, and a Rakdos's Return. Cards which, you know, against a control matchup would be excellent, but are a little expensive right now to deal with this white-black human's aggressive start.
Absolutely. Now, you are right about being careful, because if AJ lets any creature die pre-combat, then the Tragic Slip will just kill the Champion of the Parish outright. If he attacks with everything, then the only way that Andrew can kill the Champion of the Parish is to let it deal damage one time first.
Alright, so AJ's going to go ahead and it looks like he's going to make a Lingering Souls. So opts not to play the Blood Artist. His remaining hand is a Tragic Slip and a Blood Artist.
Yeah, this kind of signals that, yeah, exactly.
He's going to swing the team.
What do you think about not playing Blood Artist there?
Well, I kind of like playing Blood Artist there. The problem with the Lingering Souls, I think, is that Andrew's just going to get to eat it with the Scavenging Ooze. I think I'd favor playing Blood Artist right now.
Yeah, it'd be kind of nice to save the Lingering Souls for when you can just flash it back immediately.
Alright, so Andrew's going to go ahead and put the Ooze on a human token. So he's set up to take 6. And he will take 6 there. That drops him down to 7. He has just enough mana to Tragic Slip and eat the Lingering Souls. And AJ with a Tragic Slip in his hand. So now creatures die to both players with active Tragic Slips.
Now, it might be that AJ is doing this intentionally because he doesn't want... he wants to preserve the Blood Artist combo kill. Like, he just wants to make sure that he has enough creatures that he can actually kill Andrew. Right, now, that said, I think you still just want the extra damage from the Blood Artist then, but...
Yeah, so Blood Artist does get both the Lingering Souls and the Champion of the Parish. Besides that, the Scavenging Ooze does. Gets the Lingering Souls. The Tragic Slips trade. Scavenging Ooze dies. Champion of the Parish dies. Andrew, though, without a 4th land to play as Huntmaster, just passes the turn back. That's going to be really devastating for him.
Yeah, it's game over.
Yeah, so we see a swing of 5, play a Blood Artist, and a quick scoop. They will be on to game 2.
Yeah.
Even if Andrew hits the land and makes Huntmaster, is he able to stabilize there, or is the Blood Artist kill going to be too much?
No, I think Blood Artist kills too much, particularly since AJ has another Tragic Slip.
Okay, yeah. So the Huntmaster's not even living.
Yeah, it's not only living, the Blood Artist is going to do an extra damage off of it, and then he gets to crash with his team. Yeah.
So really a great start there by AJ.
Absolutely. Andrew really needed a Farseek or something, but being on the draw is going to be pretty tough against Champion of the Parish anyway, if he doesn't have something like Tragic Slip or Pillar Flame immediately for it, or Dreadbore or something, you know.
Yeah, he had the Tragic Slip, didn't have the untapped black, so he went tap land into Scavenging Ooze into just Tragic Slip. Really not playing enough spells to stay competitive there in the early game.
Yep.
So post board typically is when you play. One of the things I really like about Jund, when Jund, obviously Jund's a good deck, is that in almost every matchup, not all of them, but most matchups, Jund improves post board. Just it has most answers. It has answers for most things, and it really gets to kind of tune its weapon post board. So against, what does Andrew have against aristocrat human style decks?
The biggest weapons he has against all those tokens are the Ratchet Bombs, to be sure, and the Golgari Charms. Two Golgari Charms and 2 Ratchet Bombs just give him this whole new dimension where he just has tons of sweepers available to him.
Yeah.
On top of that, he has Pillar of Flame and possibly Barter and Blood. Now, Pillar and Flame, it's not amazing by any means, but since he's on the play, the odds of him being able to kill a champion of the parish are a little bit higher, but more importantly, he can occasionally kill a Zathrid Necromancer or a Blood Artist.
Like a Cartel Aristocrat, a Doomed Traveler.
Just something cheap, right, absolutely. And Barter and Blood, not amazing with as many tokens as AJ has to sack. It is a passable way to kill multiple creatures. Like you can trade 1 Barter and Blood for 2 creatures. That said, the Barter and Blood might just be too slow, but I think he's got to speed his deck up.
So you like Barter and Blood possibly against so normally against the tokens deck, I'd say I'm a little wary to board in Barter and Blood, but there might be this thing that if you have a critical mass of removal, like once you're playing 7 removal spells, then suddenly just the next one becomes that much better.
Yeah, and you might not want it just like if you think that it's just too important to have things like Scavenging Ooze and Lifebane Zombie sitting in play, but it's at least an option to consider. He doesn't have things like Liliana to take out, so he doesn't have the usual bad cards in this matchup, but I think the main thing he's got to do is just make room for these 2 Golgari Charms and 2 Ratchet Bombs, and probably the 2 Pillar Flames.
So that's like, I'm looking at, Rakdos' Return, Garruk Primal Hunters, the cards that are typically good against control decks, maybe shaving some number of those.
And you can mix up your removal a little bit. Like you're bringing in Pillar Flames and Sweepers. You can take out things like, for instance, Putrefy is a really inefficient way to deal with anything in AJ's deck. So, I wouldn't want anything like that,
So it's doing at 3 mana what other cards can do at 2 and 1.
Right, exactly. Exactly.
So AJ's side, he does have Slayer of the Wicked out of the board, which usually sees play. It takes care of Lifebane Zombie, it takes care of Olivia Voldaren. His deck is very...
Huntmaster too.
Huntmaster too, once Huntmaster. Yeah, it doesn't even have to flip. No, it's a werewolf both sides. So Slayer of the Wicked, a pretty decent answer. Remember, Olivia Voldaren is really one of the trump cards against AJ's deck. He just has the 1 Orzhov Charm and 4 Tragic Slips to deal with it. Outside of that, he has War Priest of Thune if he suspects a Curse of Death's Hold, which, as we know, is not there, but AJ does not necessarily know that. It certainly is a card that Jund can bring in. He has Appetite for Brains. He has Sin Collector in the matchup. Usually, I think Sin Collector comes in. You expect your opponents on a heavy removal plan.
Yeah, it can't hit things like Ratchet Bomb or Planeswalkers, but it does hit lots of things like a Drawn Bonfire or Golgari Charm that hasn't been used yet, or possibly just a 1/1 spot removal. It's not at its best. Like when you're on the draw, it might be a little slow, but it's definitely at least worth considering.
Yeah, last card I want to look at, what about Brave the Elements? He has that as a 1 of in his sideboard.
Brave the Elements is kind of spicy. It's great against Bonfire and Mizian Mortars, to be sure.
So it counters those. It punches through a Thragtusk, right?
Yeah, and at worst, sometimes you can just counter a Tragic Slip.
Now, one thing, it looks like Andrew is going to 6. AJ is keeping on 7. That I really see as a difference in opinion on sideboarding with Aristocrat's deck is really the role of Blood Artist post board. I see a lot of people who just say, you don't want to play Blood Artist against an all removal plan. So they board them out, against Control, against Jund. And I see other people who say, against Jund, you want to maintain the combo ability of your deck. You really need these Blood Artists. If your things are going to die, you want them to drain your opponent.
I would just do whatever Sam Black and Brad Nelson did last. I got a feeling that's probably if there's 2 people I know who know how to Blood Artist effectively. All right, turn 1, Doom Traveler out of AJ.
Yep, Overgrown Tomb for Ohlschwager. Looks like he's going to play that and a Woodland Cemetery into Scavenging Ooze. No red mana as of yet.
But he hasn't needed it yet. It looks like he doesn't even have... Oh no, is that a Blood Crypt?
Yeah, he has a pair of Blood Crypts.
Yeah.
And we'll actually get to see his hand. AJ makes Isolated Chapel and Appetite for Brains. It is Putrefy, Golgari Charm, and 2 Blood Crypts.
Dodges.
Yeah, so...
Swing.
All right, so now both players kind of on that mulligan to 6. AJ does get information to work with.
Yes. But AJ had to spend a mana for it.
Right, so actually, as we saw, did take his whole turn. Anderson seems pretty decent here. His Scavenging Ooze is going to have to do a lot of work, though. It's the only creature he has right now.
Well, he's not up against a huge clock yet, but he does have all the right kinds of weapons. You know, the Golgari Charm is a big trump, and then he also has Putrefy is a mediocre reactive card, but that was a Huntmaster, right?
His draw? I think it was another Blood Crypt.
Oh, no. Okay, what was the other creature? Did he have another?
He doesn't know. It's just two more
Blood discarded
Crypts.
to Brains anyway.
Yeah. So after Andrew swings with the Ooze, AJ hits back with the Doom Traveler, and on 3 mana is going to go ahead and go for Sin Collector. Andrew does have 2 cards that's going to hit.
Yeah, Golgari Charm not at its best here.
Yep. In response, Andrew's going to
Decides to do it anyway, though.
Yep, he's going to Golgari Charm away AJ's board. AJ will get his last spell, which is the Putrefy. Andrew just left with 2 Blood Crypts, but plenty of things in the yard for Scavenging Ooze to eat.
Yeah, you got to just respond there, because the Golgari Charm's at least better than the Putrefy, and you're going to lose whichever one you don't use.
Yeah. So, and we see a draw.
If you even had the mana for Putrefy, you know.
Yeah, we see a draw of Pillar of Flame from Andrew. He's going to go ahead and hit back with Scavenging Ooze, eat both creatures in the graveyard, put himself up to 21, hit for 4, put AJ down to 14. So AJ a little bit on the defensive here. He knows that Andrew is pretty much out of gas, but he is at a 7 life point deficit here.
Yeah, and facing down a big creature. He doesn't exactly have a lot of removal.
Yeah, it looks like AJ has an Oblivion Ring in hand, which that'll certainly
that's very
help.
effective.
Yeah, he just drew an Intangible Virtue, and I believe has what might be another Appetite for Brains in his hand, which not as strong.
So AJ most likely going to attack for 1 and O-ring the Ooze, just because he's so far behind on life anyway. He can't really afford to take 4 more damage just to commit a little bit more to the board before reacting to this Ooze.
Yeah, so you're saying O-ring versus Intangible Virtue?
Yeah, and I'm not sure what other options he has, but the only other consideration is, do you Appetite for Brain in addition, because the Appetite for Brain could theoretically take a Thragtusk.
Nope, it was a Pillar of Flame.
He knew it was probably going to miss, but he'd rather at least take a shot.
Sure, if Andrew had drawn a Thragtusk there, that would have been a really great play to snag it.
Yeah, the Appetite for Brains isn't going to do too much for him anyway. He's already got a full belly. So AJ gets in there for 1, and O-ring on the Ooze as anticipated.
So how do you feel about Appetite for Brains against Jund? We saw AJ play, it looks like he's boarded in all 3 of the ones in his board. It has whiffed twice.
I prefer fried chicken.
Okay.
To Brains.
That seems fair.
So AJ draws Intangible Virtue. No, he has the Intangible Virtue.
He drew his 3rd Appetite for Brains that time.
Yeah, I tried telling you, man. Fried chicken, way better.
Way better. And at this point, he's not ever going to hit something with it, because it seems most likely that if Andrew draws a card that costs 4 or more, it's just going to get immediately cast.
Correct. But he can hold it in his hand. He doesn't know about things like Liliana or, and it gives him something to bluff with,
Right. So we see the 4th and final Blood Crypt made for Andrew Ohlschwager, and AJ does draw a creature in the form of Cartel Aristocrat. So right now, actually, Andrew is having trouble making a board presence. He has a Pillar, he has a Ratchet Bomb, but that's about it right now.
And we're most likely going to see this Ratchet Bomb start to tick up towards 2 being the magic number. But I'm kind of surprised that he didn't just blow the Pillar on the Cartel Aristocrat or the token. Either way, the token's dying, but just make the token die so that you take a little bit less damage. I mean, what are you saving the Pillar for?
I think that second point is really what I like, what you made, is that, what are you saving the Pillar for? It's really just a 1-for-1 kill spell. A 2/2 token's a fine thing to use it on. But interestingly, once the Ratchet Bomb cracks on 2, Cartel Aristocrat cannot get protection from artifacts, so there's no way to save it.
Yeah, and even if it had protection from artifacts, it wouldn't survive.
Yeah, it actually wouldn't work because it's not targeted. So we see the Pillar now on the token, and Ender's going to use his last card, which is a Farseek, to get a land out of his deck. And he will go ahead with an empty hand, pass the turn. Life totals are 14 and 12 right now. AJ, he's the one dealing damage right now, but really both players just playing off the top of their deck. We see Andrew hit down to 12. Remember, AJ's on a 2-card hand. One of those 2 cards is a 3rd Appetite for Brains, so AJ's really kind of on a 1-card hand as well. And draw from Ohlschwager.
He's got a lot of live draws. He wants something like a Thragtusk, a Huntmaster, an Olivia.
And there we go.
Huntmaster.
Called right for 1. Huntmaster of the Fells. I'm going to go ahead, and that should certainly shore up things right now for Andrew. He has the Ratchet Bomb on 2. He has Huntmaster of the Fells.
Yeah, things are just going swimmingly for Andrew.
Yeah.
AJ doesn't have a ton of removal in his deck, and if he doesn't deal with this Huntmaster, it is going to very quickly tear him apart.
I believe he had a Ned Stark Dire Wolf token he was originally using there. For any of you who are Game of Thrones fans out there. And third card drawn by AJ. He's going to go ahead and swing the Cartel Aristocrat. Actually, Andrew opts to go ahead and trade his wolf for the Cartel Aristocrat. And that allows the Huntmaster to get Tragic Slipped. If you were planning to crack the Ratchet Bomb on 2, what do you think about that trade there?
Well, now it looks like we're taking the Ratchet Bomb to 3.
So the Ratchet Bomb's going to hit the O-Ring to get back the Scavenging Ooze.
And the Ooze is, I mean, if you think that AJ had a lot of appetite, you should see the Ooze.
So AJ, it looks like he has an Appetite for Brains, he has a land, he has 4 cards in hand, he has just drawn Lingering Souls, I believe. Yeah, so that's a pretty pivotal time to draw it. Well, I guess...
Is there any reason to not just make 8 power with the flyers?
I mean, I think you have to make 8 because right now, Andrew, if you don't flash it back, you'll see Ratchet Bomb crack on 3, and then Scavenging Ooze will go ahead and eat the Lingering Souls. So when he casts it, he's just going to have to cast both halves. Right?
Yeah. Plus, it's an added benefit. He's got 8 power with the flyers against an opponent with 12 life and no answer.
Yeah. And we actually, it looks like we see him not.
Are we sure that was a Lingering Souls?
I guess we're not sure it's a Lingering Souls. We'll wait on that. It seems like...
Could have been a Midnight Haunting.
Okay. All right, so the Scavenging Ooze comes back off the Ratchet Bomb.
I know, AJ. He wouldn't ship with a Lingering Souls in this position.
It eats 2 creatures, moves Andrew back up to 14. Now it's a 4/4 again. AJ will drop to 10. And a draw. That's going to be Doomed Traveler on the draw.
God, that sure looks like Lingering Souls.
I think it is. I mean, it could be an Oblivion Ring. Those
yeah,
cards
maybe.
are similar.
Yeah, maybe it was an
Oblivion
O-ring, and then he just couldn't do it because the Ratchet Bomb destroyed the other O-ring during the main phase, or during the end step.
Right. Yeah, the draw of Doom Traveler, fine here as a chump blocker, but he's going to need to find a way to deal with that Scavenging Ooze. Without a card like Lingering Souls, I think it's going to be pretty hard for AJ to race this Scavenging Ooze.
You can't just walk around playing O-rings with different artwork. It's messed up, man. It's messed up. It's just not right. So what's the order? If you got the Doom Traveler, I mean...
Alright, first I'm going to cast that last Appetite for Brains.
Just see what he's working with.
There is a Bonfire.
Bonfire, potentially a Bonfire for 4.
Alright, that certainly knocks a bit off AJ's clock. He's going to play the Doomed Traveler and pass the turn. So right now there are 8 lands in play for Andrew Ohlschwager. So he's 1 land away from that Bonfire for 4 that you were talking about. And
but he's got the, he had the land in his hand. He just drew Dreadbore for the turn.
Oh, okay, so yeah, he has the 9th land already. And Ooze will swing. Doom Traveler will block. A 2/2 flyer will be made. Presumably that Ooze will work its way up to a 5/5. And Andrew will pass. And AJ with another card in hand. We're still waiting on what that last card he has here is. He's going to go ahead and attack for 2 with that Vigilant token. He's drawn a Plains for the turn. And passes back. Andrew ups the Scavenging Ooze to a 5/5, eating
There's no
the
chance
Doomed
he has like
Traveler.
a Slayer of the Wicked or something, is there?
No, that is a Lingering Souls. That just is a Lingering Souls. Yeah, which he's not playing.
Now, is this like he's trying to play around Bonfire?
Well, now that he knows the Bonfire's there, I think there's some merit to him.
All right, Castic
All
Wolf Run ends it.
Wolf Run ends it. So Andrew Ohlschwager gets game 2. So at 1/1 we're going to game 3. So what would be the reason for not casting a Lingering Souls there?
You know your opponent has a Bonfire?
Okay, that's a good one. And at one point he did, after the Appetite for Brains, he did know about the Bonfire. But how do you draw it out then?
Try to make some other creatures.
Okay.
I don't know. Maybe what you do is you just let the Bonfire eat it early on so that at least you've drawn out the Bonfire. So
Right.
the next time you play one, I don't know. Either way, it's a tough spot to be in. And that Castic Wolf Run ends it.
All right.
Smart play by getting that Ratchet Bomb up to 3.
Yeah, I really like how he had it at 2, and then when AJ offered the trade of Cartel Aristocrat for the Wolf, Andrew was able to jump on that, make the trade, and then get his own Scavenging Ooze back. A really heads-up play there, as that Scavenging Ooze ended up ending the game.
Yeah, and it's not, I mean, he even would have had the Huntmaster if AJ didn't have a Tragic Slip. Yep, not everything, there's more to this life than a 2-for-1.
All right, so going
Not much, but...
Yeah. Going to game 3, we didn't see any Champion of the Parish there in that game, and we're saying that was one of the things that possibly White-Black Humans also sides out in this matchup. Basically, the cards that are not resilient to removal tend to get the axe. That said, we saw AJ win game 1 off a really strong Champion of the Parish draw.
Yeah, I mean, it's always fun when you draw the Gather, but AJ really just, I mean, he doesn't have a ton of humans. He has some.
Yeah, he has Champion, Doomed Traveler, and Gather the Townsfolk, and that's actually, and
Cartel.
Cartel Aristocrat, and that's Zathard Necromancer. So that's actually 20 humans. So
That's not bad.
yeah, it's not bad.
Yeah, he's definitely pushing it in kind of a tokens-like direction. I mean, he's even got an Intangible Virtue main deck now, which in the past AJ's, favored a slightly more aristocrat approach than a black-white tokens approach, but
Yeah, it's I think yesterday he had all 3 virtues in the sideboard. Now he has 1 main, 2 sideboards. So one of them is snuck in. A 1 of Intangible Virtue and a 1 of Sorin, Lord of Innistrad have both come into the main deck as he's cut red from the deck now.
do you think it's possible that AJ boards out an appetite for brains? Just from being on,
having drawn 3 of them?
Yeah, on run bad tilt.
Yeah. I would think so. I think maybe 1. So, well, I think the card's still decent in the matchup. The question is whether or not you'd ever really want to draw them in multiples.
The thing is, though, if you don't want to draw them, why are you boarding them in the first place against anybody? Like, if you don't, like,
So-
you put 3 in the deck. Presumably, he wants to draw multiples.
Right, so what's the theory, the difference between a 3 of and a 2 of,
The number of them in your deck.
Right, okay, so when you put it, depending on how many you put in, that says something about like how often you want to see the card. And it's possible, I think AJ doesn't mind seeing one of them, maybe it's good. I think if he has a hand with 2 of them, he's really running the risk that one of them is dead.
Yeah, I mean, no question, drawing 3 off the top when your opponent already doesn't have any.
Yeah, I mean that's particularly
It's like a
run
triple
bad.
mulligan.
Yeah.
But there is a certain amount of diminishing returns.
And we have...
Dude, I want to see AJ be like turn 1 champion of the parish, turn 2 champion. So I always want to see that kind of business.
We see AJ looks like he's kept a 7-card hand. I believe Andrew Ohlschwager is on a mulligan right now.
Yeah, it worked well for him last game, so I think he's trying to stick with the formula.
Yeah, Andrew was on 6 last game. Right.
Andrew surveys his opening hand.
And one of the exciting...
Survey says keep.
Good.
Snap keep.
So AJ turn 1 with the Godless Shrine into Doomed Traveler. You see, yeah, it looks, Andrew has kept a turn 2 hand with Scavenging Ooze, Thragtusk, and some lands, it looks like. And a Bonfire.
It is just absolutely incredible how much of an influence Scavenging Ooze has on this format. Hitting everything from flashback cards, Snapcaster targets, to creatures, to having a board presence, to gaining life. I mean,
it's really a strong card all around. So for AJ, we saw no turn 2 play, but the turn 2 play for Ohlschwager was the Scavenging Ooze. Now AJ's initial assault stopped with Andrew at 19.
With prizes based on record, you're going to get to play all 3 rounds of Swiss in this draft. So if you're interested
AJ
in
debating
some drafts
his
today,
line of play.
It's a great way to do it.
Yeah, he does have a Sin Collector. He does have a Tragic Slip. It's possible he does not have a 3rd land. You can go ahead and gather the townsfolk here. And I believe he just has the 2 lands.
goes into the tank. That's what I'm talking about. There
All
we
right.
go. There we go.
Little nod up to the booth here. Yep, and he makes the 2 Patrick Chapin tokens. No 3rd land though. Passes back. No attack.
I think AJ's got a commanding board presence right now. Like, I think
all right. Unfortunately, now huge tragedy. Both Patrick Chapins and a Doomed Traveler meeting a Bonfire of the Damned for 1.
So I think it actually worked really, really well. That Bonfire of the Damned was going to be golden. I think it's possible Andrew was so intimidated that he had to.
He just had to fire it off right then.
Had shots fired.
All right. So Andrew with the 3rd does have the 3rd land. It looks like AJ is still stuck on 2. He still has an Intangible Virtue and a Tragic Slip for 2 mana, but he has a lot of plays at 3, which he's not able to make. He has a Zathard Necromancer, a Sin Collector, I believe a Lingering Souls as well. All's right now stuck in his hand.
Yeah, I definitely think that Intangible is the yeah. It looks like that's the only play he really has.
Yeah, he could block and Tragic Slip, I suppose would be his other line, and that's pretty unappealing.
Yep. AJ real quiet as the Scavenging Ooze beats continue.
Yep. So Scavenging is doing all of the above things you mentioned. Swings, this time grows itself up to a 3/3, eats the Doom Traveler out of the yard, and gains Andrew a life. Now 18-12 in Andrew's favor. So
Beats continue.
Yep, AJ pushes 2. This time he has the 3rd land. So now the question is which of these many cards he wants to go for.
What do you know? Rewarded with Silent for a turn. And because silence, like Intangible, is also a virtue, AJ is rewarded. Do you think Sin Collector is the correct opening, just to pave the way for whatever else you might do next?
Depends what he's wanting to play around. So I think the scariest plays, well, Olivia could have been pretty scary in the situation. They did have Tragic Slip for it. I think Thrag Tusk is probably something he's pretty worried about. And we know Andrew actually does have the Thrag Tusk. What are the plays that AJ needs to play around? I kind of think he wants to just establish as strong of a board presence as possible. I kind of like Zathrid Necromancer here. But Sin Collector is certainly not a bad option. He needs to be careful that he doesn't let his life total dip too low. Right now he is losing the race.
You keep talking about being careful and being scared. I think AJ is just trying to figure out, what gas station to go blow up right now. He's not scared. He's ready, the party is ready to start now. He's got 3 mana.
lands, here we go.
Yeah, and I think, then again, he might just be shaking.
All right. So, debating the possible plays here, what's your call?
I like Sin Collector, but I don't know. I mean, it'd be nice to make sure your Necromancer has the best shot it has of having a happy and full life.
All right, looks like AJ's leaning the same way. He's going to go with Sin Collector. And we'll get to see what Andrew has. He has Thrag Tusk, land.
Good. Means that if nothing else, the Necromancer will live. And we're going to have one of those games where Andrew has a bazillion life and 3 giant fatties. AJ has tons of cards, lots with abilities, all interacting. Everybody gets to execute their game plan, and we just see who goes bigger.
Yep. Which one can win? AJ's going to start a little bit on the back foot because of life totals here. But looks like a draw. Andrew, I think he hit either an Olivia or a Huntmaster here.
Man, I'd love to have Path of Bravery if I were AJ.
That'd be very strong.
But AJ trades his board to kill that Scavenging Ooze, figuring, you know what? I know you have 2 Thrag Tusks, but turns out I don't give a damn.
Well, once he starts having a Zathrid Necromancer, his Necromancer's tokens will be able to trade with Thrag Tusk and the beast token that it makes. The one thing is that Andrew actually for that turn did draw Olivia Voldaren, so AJ does have a Tragic Slip for it. He's going to need to make sure that that's where the Tragic Slip goes. So right now he's unaware of the Olivia.
Blissfully unaware, if you will.
All right, we have Zathrid Necromancer and Doomed Traveler for AJ.
Is there any chance that AJ doesn't just block this Thrag Tusk with the Doom Traveler?
I mean, I don't think he can let the Zathrid Necromancer die right now. It seems like that's way too...
And he certainly can't take the damage, right?
Puts him to 7. That starts... It's close. I don't think so. But now he knows about the other card. Andrew he shocks himself to have 6 mana, plays Olivia, and has 2 mana up.
Is it possible that Andrew, he wants to swing?
Yeah, I don't know why you leave up the 1 mana. I feel like the 1 mana would ping the Doomed Traveler, and then you'd make the swing.
Takes 2 mana.
Use the 2 mana to kill the Doom Traveler, because now that the Spirit Token has come back, the Olivia can't actually kill anything with the ping, because the Spirit Token is a 2/2.
Yeah, it's possibly doesn't want to kill anything, though. It's possibly just wants to steal the Necromancer.
Oh, okay.
And if he pinged beforehand, then there'd be more tokens to block the Thrag Tusk, for instance. Yeah, I think the Olivia might just be on some Burgle type of time.
All right, so AJ's going to have to face that down. He does have a Tragic Slip for the Olivia. He doesn't have a way to enable Morbid yet. Looks like he has a Doomed Traveler, a Tragic Slip. Or some white card. It may not be Doomed Traveler. I believe it is, though. And then a land. So AJ's going to have to take care of the Olivia. That's going to have to be Tragic Slipped. I think the real difficulty here, though, is that he has to race this Thrag Tusk and the Thrag Tusk that he knows is in Andrew Ohlschwager's hand.
Yeah, he's going to have to go big. He's going to have to go big or go home. I mean, the Olivia is not going to be that big of a problem because he can slip it, but his board is pretty far away from being able to beat, multiple Thrag Tusks. That said, it doesn't take too many of his multipliers before he starts to get into some pretty crazy territory, you know? Like even a single Lingering Souls is so effective with Intangible Virtue right now.
Right, so he needs to get the Olivia off the board. Do we see both tokens swing just to make sure that Morbid hits?
And it wouldn't matter anyway. I mean, you could swing with just the 3/3 zombie because
right.
you can slip will kill the Olivia anyway. But once you're at that point, you might as well swing with the
Players
Spirit
are just
also.
looking for two
Right, if you
more
swing the
people to
zombie,
fill out the
it's
draft
very
challenge.
unlikely that the
Two
block
more
will
people
happen.
to fill
They'll
out
probably
the
just take the
draft
third.
challenge.
And AJ
If you're
wants
interested
something to
in
die this
drafting
turn, so
today,
his
this is
Zathir
a
Necromancer
really
doesn't
fun
get
way to
stolen.
Be part of a call draft.
Possible. He also might just want Olivia to try using his mana. Because if you ever
Yeah.
slip her, you get all your stuff back.
Right, and eventually Andrew's going to have to kill a creature here too. It's not like he can avoid Morbid getting triggered.
Yeah. Time is a factor. AJ surveying all his different options. He's, there's also the outside possibility of swinging with the Necromancer, but
Right, he's going to play a pre-combat Doomed Traveler and then swing both of them. Olivia's going to go ahead and block the 2/2 Spirit. And Andrew takes 3, goes to 16. Morbid trigger enabled. So, tell me a bit about the pre-combat Doomed Traveler here. So what that's actually going to enable is that when AJ Tragic slips the Olivia will be able to kill the Doomed Traveler, whereas before it just would have been...
Which may be what AJ wants. I mean, AJ was in the tank for a little while, doing something down there.
Yeah, so he
might have
wants...
been. Yeah, he might have been scraping this play off the bottom of the floor.
Yeah, so he actually wanted his Doomed Traveler to die here, just so he could have more. Which actually, that's fair. That turns 1 power into 5 power. Doomed Traveler dying is really good for him if Andrew makes the play.
From the looks of it, it is not to be.
No, and brutally, Andrew actually, he tragic slips in response to Zathir Necromancer.
As you might imagine, it was tragic.
It was. Now Andrew AJ, last land is a Godless Shrine. He is out of cards. I'm going to have to beat 2 halves of a Thragtusk.
4.
Right, yeah. Both halves of this Thragtusk, 2 halves of 2 Thragtusks. Right. Alright, so first Thragtusk will just trigger a Doomed Traveler. We get chumped by it. And now we see a second one. Andrew goes up to 21. Yeah, so AJ facing in a little bit of a tough spot here. As you said, though, he has a lot of ways to get out of this. Like you said, a Lingering Souls draw. So obviously, we'll get him ahead here. He'll make 8 power in the air.
Yeah, Lingering Souls would be fantastic, but he's got a lot of good options. If he drew like Sorin, and he's got a lot of options to give him a little bit of headway, like Midnight Haunting or Zathir Necromancer or anything like that.
All right. Team's going to come in. 5 damage will be dealt to Ohlschwager. That puts him back down to 16. The Thragtusk will trade with a zombie token. So 5/5 Dispatch now turned into a 3/3. AJ keeps his drawn hand and passes back.
Is that another Ooze?
That looks like another Scavenging Ooze. Andrew has Scavenging Ooze Farseek.
Ooze new.
Yeah, Ooze pretty good here. They're, especially after that last trade with the Zathir Necromancer, the Sin Collector, the Olivia. There's a lot of fodder there for that Scavenging Ooze to work with. So swing for 8 from Ohlschwager.
And what's that card in play?
That is Scavenging Ooze.
Ooze?
Yep.
No, the Ooze on first.
Oh.
What
what
else
I
can
was
AJ
asking
do
you.
besides Lingering Souls? Just any of his 2-for-1 token making things? Or does he...
Okay, AJ actually went to 4 there.
Okay,
so
maybe the 5 for
that's right. Yeah, the 5 for
token
1.
making things.
So it is a fateful hour as the townsfolk will gather, all 5 of them.
Aggressive. Oh, can he actually just get the full package? 1 of each? Oh.
All right, he's gonna go 2 Brads, 2 Chapins, and a
Reed Duke.
Reed.
Is that Duke or Flores?
I think that's a black one. I think that's
Flores?
Flores is the white one. I want to say
Jerry?
Jerry's the black one.
No, isn't Flores? Flores is the black one. Jerry's the white one. Yes. Nope. Can we get a ruling? If you're at home, tweet at us at SCG Live. Let us know, is Jerry the white one or the black one? And is Flores the white one or the black one in his heart?
So we see the Scavenging Ooze eating all 4 creatures, moving up to becoming a 6/6. Ohlschwager.
This is like an exciting little
life
turn.
total. Yeah.
AJ's life total down to the bare minimum, but this is quite the fateful hour. This is like, he's got, I mean, what is this? This is like 23 power worth of creatures on the table, right? 22 power worth of creatures.
Wait, just on AJ's side?
Yeah.
Well, he has 10. 12, 15.
Oh, intangible virtue only gives +1/+1?
Yeah,
Lame.
it's not Temper Steel, but it's still pretty
Lame.
good. So 6/6 Scavenging Ooze is going to swing in along with a 5/3 Thragtusk and a 3/3 Beast token. A lot of trading probably is set to happen here.
Now is AJ on the chump blocks for life plan, yo? Or what?
Well,
I mean, is he going to try to throw
he's going to try to
everything?
just trade everything.
Just go hard.
Well, it's an 18-4 life point battle. I kind of feel like he's going to want to trade.
Because he could have his 3/3 block the Thragtusk, 2
Right.
humans block the Beast, and then just have a single human chump block the
Ooze, and then he swings
Ooze.
back for. Then he'll have 6 power to swing back with.
Yeah, it's not bad. 1, 2.
Actually, he'd have 8 because the
8.
two.
No,
8.
he'll have 9, right? No, 8. He'll have 8.
He'll have 4 humans.
Yeah. Or 3 humans and a spirit, rather.
Right, because yep. So let's see here. He's going to put a human on the Ooze, 2 of them on the Beast token. That's exactly the block you'd mentioned, and then the zombie on the Thragtusk. So it's going to be a trade with the Thragtusk, a trade with the Beast token, a chump on the Scavenging Ooze, which will leave AJ with 4 creatures in play, 8 power, a 3-turn clock, but Andrew will still have 2 creatures when all is said and done. He'll have the Beast token off the Thragtusk, and the Ooze
Yeah, from the looks of it, Todd is getting mugged.
by 2 Brads and 2 Chapins.
These are the blocks.
All right, checks his cards, person's Farseek, and we see Golgari Charm drawn by Ohlschwager for the intangible virtue. That's huge. That's that's going to be really rough for AJ.
AJ loses
Almost
damn
everything.
near everything.
Andrew loses a Beast token, and then he Farseeks on his turn. So on his second main.
Golgari Charm is super effective.
Yeah, I don't know if there's a way that AJ can actually play around that. You know, he pretty much has to play into it at that point.
I mean, if he knows his opponent has it, he could have 1 extra human block the Thragtusk so that at least you kill half of that. Or you could just be single blocking everything.
Right.
But these are pretty dire straits.
We see the draw for AJ. It's Cartel Aristocrat.
How is so AJ? I mean, is he getting down to the point where he kind of just needs to draw either a removal spell for that Ooze, or he needs to draw something like Gather the Townsfolk or Lingering Souls, which would make him enough tokens to give him some extra turns, a little bit of breathing room.
Yeah, I think he needs those souls and Gather the Townsfolk to buy him some time to then draw, maybe an intangible virtue or some way to race back. But it's going to be a lot of chump blocking, I'd imagine. So we see here he plays Doomed Traveler. He swings 1 damage with the Spirit token, so he's still chipping in whatever damage he can.
Meanwhile, Andrew continues to draw nothing but extremely high octane diesel.
What was the draw for the turn?
Ratchet Bomb.
Oh, that's good in this matchup, right?
It is.
Oh, okay. AJ with a block of Doom Traveler, sacrifice to Cartel Aristocrat, no damage this turn, but Ratchet Bomb for Andrew Ohlschwager. That will take care of 2 of AJ's 3 creatures.
Well, even worse, it makes it so that there's nothing AJ can draw
Right.
short of a removal spell.
Yeah, AJ swings 1 Spirit token, puts Andrew Ohlschwager down to a dangerous 15. Andrew and Endstep will go ahead and kill both tokens. Doesn't need the Doomed Traveler. And feeling pretty confident here, and
That's the match.
That's the match.
Andrew Ohlschwager is victorious over AJ Sacher with his stock Jund deck versus white black human / token / our cousin is an aristocrat.
So we saw there AJ able to take game 1 off a really aggressive draw, but then post board, once Andrew had access to things like that Golgari Charm, the match got a fair amount tougher there as Andrew was able to win both board games and take the match.
Yeah, I mean, going from having 1 mortars and 3 bonfires up to having 8 sweepers, including Golgari Charm and Ratchet Bomb. Ratchet Bomb of which, just being super effective and being able to sit and play. Golgari Charm being an instant and being able to get rid of Crusades. I think that, Andrew just has a fantastic sideboard for this particular matchup.
Yeah, he was on six cards, I think both games 2 and 3. Both times was able to recover
But
and
part of that,
stabilize.
Part of that may also just be, you can mulligan a little more aggressively.
Yeah, when you have such great cards like Ratchet Bomb.
Yeah, like when you have Dynamite like Golgari Charm and Ratchet Bomb to go look
Final
for.
call for the draft challenge.
It looks like both